Today on the Tristen Law Show, there's a slight glitch in this episode. But I don't want you to worry because your boy Tristen got this under control. Today, you're going to meet Jay Walker, and that's today on the Tristen Law Show. Welcome to the Tristen Law Show, where I introduce you to the personalities in and out of the pro wrestling ring. The unique part is you don't have to be a pro wrestling fan to enjoy this podcast. If it is your first time here, new episodes drop Wednesdays, and welcome. I'm your host, Tristen Law, and I'm glad that you're here for another episode featuring another personality in and out of the pro wrestling ring. This episode, I'm going back to Canada, and luckily for me, this time of year, it's getting warmer, the snow's melting, the Eskimos are going back into hibernation. I really don't know if that's a thing. But you're going to also meet Jay Walker, who represents Canada. We're going to talk about his creative side, how he uses social media to bolster his brand, U.S.-Canadian border issues that create inequalities for Canadian independent pro wrestlers, and much, much more. To all my pro wrestling and non-pro wrestling fans out there, how was WrestleMania? Have you checked out the bonus WrestleMania episode that dropped last week? Don't worry, you can still listen to it, but after this one. Up next on the Tristen Law Show is Jay Walker. I am Tristen Law, and this is the Tristen Law Show.
Hello to all of you Tristen Law Show podcast listeners. This is Frank Mandolini. You may not recognize this voice. I am the Italian podcaster who talks about the business side of wrestling. Yeah, I know, it's quite niche. But if you look for last minute wrestling podcast on all of your social media and wherever you get your podcast, you'll be amazed to find interviews with people such as Rob Van Dam or Matthew Gregg from Botchamania and many others, so you get to know many aspects of the wrestling business that normally you don't hear in wrestling podcasts. Because let's face it, who wants to hear another guy talk about Monday Night Raw? Yeah, me neither. So guys, go to lmwpodcast.com or search for LMW Podcast everywhere in the interweb. And remember guys, this is Frank Mandolini from the Last Minute Wrestling Podcast, and you stay safe.
Welcome back to the Tristen Law Show, and I hope that you're having a great time. My next guest represents my second favorite country, Canada. He is the glitch in the system. I'd like to welcome Jay Walker to the Tristen Law Show. Jay, how are you? Welcome.
Man, I'm doing good. I'm excited to be doing this with you. Let's go.
You see, Canada's only one of my favorite countries because I visit Canada a lot, and I have not had the opportunity to visit Canada because of obvious reasons. But I cannot wait until the border is open because I can't wait to come back to your country and try your food and see my family. So, yeah, that's why Canada's my second favorite country.
One day we'll get the number one spot there. We'll win you over. We're going to scoop you.
You know, it's funny. I did look to see if I can file for citizenship. And based on Canada's website, because let me tell you, I have a sister in Canada. My father I think he was a Canadian citizen and all that other stuff. So when I looked at Canada's website to see if I would qualify, in order for me to qualify, I have to be able to give the Canadian population something. And there's nothing that I can give them. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a genius beyond repair. So there's nothing that I can offer your country. So if you know anybody that's looking for a husband, I'm looking to become a Canadian citizen. I'm just kidding. That's just an ongoing joke that I'm running with my sister about her 70-year-old neighbor.
Love it. We'll get the word around.
So what have you been up to since COVID shut the whole entire world down?
Man, it's been wild. I'm a homebody, so like you tell me to stay home, and you don't have to tell me twice. I'm good. I'm pretty hands-on with tech, so like I'm busy enough with my own videos and YouTube channel. I do some graphic design on the side. Had a chance to finally sit down and play some video games for the first time in a real long time. and just spending time with the family and enjoying that as well. Luckily, my work wasn't shut down, like side job, working in a restaurant. So that's been good too. So really, I kind of lucked out in this situation, unlike a lot of people. So yeah, no, it's been busy for me actually.
What kind of video games have you been playing?
So we picked up the Switch just for like its versatility, right? And got a young kid at home too. So I downloaded some old Final Fantasies I used to play on 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we did, man, we've gotten so much lately. We're really buckling down. I got the sequel to the South Park game, the Fractured But Whole. Big South Park fan, so that was a lot of fun playing that. Right now we're trying to do the new Donkey Kong game, as well as Let's Go Pikachu, the Pokemon game with the 3D map and everything, which just blows my mind because I was a Game Boy Color kid.
Right.
So the graphics have definitely stepped up. So yeah, no, a lot of gaming going on in the house.
I remember having a Game Boy, and it was the original Game Boy, and you couldn't play it in the dark because you couldn't see it. And then Game Boy Color came out. And speaking of South Park, that's cool that you're a South Park fan. For me, when I was a teenager, South Park was just coming out. And South Park was something that I shouldn't have been watching, and I used to watch it all the time. Now that I'm a grown-ass man, I don't watch it at all.
Really?
At all. I can't tell you what's happening in South Park. You know, from what I understand, that one of the guys in South Park, his father sells weed now and has a weed farm and all this other stuff. So, I'm so out of touch with South Park. Maybe I'll sit down and watch maybe the pandemic special that they have coming out soon.
Yeah, I recommend it actually. It's they've got some pretty good writers on the show now, so it's not all the old childish jokes it used to be. But yeah, no, definitely something if you got the time.
I'll check it out. So while researching you, I noticed that you were covered by a sports and esports website, Sportskeeda, due to your tweets surrounding your understanding of the Firefly Funhouse match at the previous WrestleMania. Until reading your tweets, Jay, I didn't get all the Easter eggs. So how did you find all the Easter eggs?
Man, I've just been a big fan of storytelling in wrestling, like even applying that to myself and really trying to make these dynamic matches that separate me from everybody else. And I have this really creative side. So watching that, I just, something grabbed me, all of the thought and effort put into it. So yeah, just being able to pick that apart, and the fact that it did get picked up by a lot of wrestling websites and even like some WWE talent was like sharing it and stuff, that just, you never know what's going to blow up. And for some odd reason it was that, but it was cool to see and see the amount of appreciation that that went into that, you know?
Well, you forced me to go ahead and rewatch that entire match. Like, I got some of them. Like I got the whole chair thing where he was like, hit me. But like the NWO part, I guess I didn't really get that part that much. But after reading that, like, dude, you're good. And and for me, storytelling is everything as well too, because I try to tell the younger wrestlers, Jay, that stories are everything. Story and character is everything. If you're going there just doing moves, people will care, but not you won't emotionally connect to people. And I saw that, and I felt like that match emotionally connected with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, growing up in Winnipeg too, I had a lot of great influences. Of course, Kenny Omega. I hate to name drop the guy, but he was always around, and he always had that awesome advice of, whatever you're thinking of busting out some new move, don't. Not on this show. He says just find a story, tell the story, and make sure the audience cares about what's going on, so they come back for next time. So again, that's just something that's resonated with me throughout the years.
Well, during COVID, I understand that a lot of Canadian independent wrestlers aren't wrestling due to obvious reasons. So, Jay, how have you utilized YouTube to keep yourself relevant?
So yeah, about 2 years ago, I started this YouTube vlog, which just did amazing things for wrestling for me. It just created more opportunities, more awareness, building up an audience, really creating a brand around my wrestling character rather than just relying around the local audience that was available to me. Canada's different than the United States in that you're very geographically challenged, meaning that you have to travel a good 6 to 8 hours just to hit the next promotion over. Wow. So you really become contained in this small bubble where we are. And so to branch out, you really have to make it count, and you have to make it worth it. And this YouTube channel, which I've been able to keep up during COVID, has, again, just really kept me busy, kept growing an audience, challenging myself creatively, and just busting out all this new content and keeping myself fresh in the minds of people when I'm not wrestling here now. But it kind of doesn't feel like it, to be honest with you.
So I know that you were trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and as of right now, you're at 707. So I encourage everybody to find your YouTube channel and go ahead and subscribe, because I looked at some of the content. The content is really cool, what you do there. And obviously I can tell that either you were self-taught, but after watching the video, one of the videos, I learned that you went to school for it.
Yeah, no, a little bit of film school. That was awesome. Good experience there too. But yeah, a lot of it was self-taught. I like most professional wrestlers, started out backyarding as a kid with all my buddies on weekends. And we started filming it, and I started learning how to chop it up. I learned the whole YouTube world, and since then just kind of keep building on and learning new things every time.
So what are some tips that you would have for somebody that's looking to do something on YouTube, whether it be pro wrestling related or non-pro wrestling related?
Make sure that you love it. It can be very time consuming. It can be very stressful at times, but just make sure that whatever you are covering, make sure that you love it. And that way you put your whole heart into it and you become obsessed with it in a way that you want to challenge yourself and learn new skills to continue to grow and develop it as you go on.
I know that you discovered pro wrestling at 3 years old. Me personally, I can't think back past 5 years old, but what is your earliest memory of pro wrestling?
For some reason, I don't know why. The earliest memory I have of physically watching the television was the model Rick Martel cutting a promo on Tatanka with the feather in hand, and he's just stroking that feather the entire time because he just stole it off of him. I'm pretty sure, though, that it's WrestleMania 6. Just the poster of Hogan and Warrior and the lightning in the background and stuff. And I'm 3 years old here. That just blew my mind, and I definitely needed to check out that tape. So I buckled down, and since then it's been guns blazing on the product ever since.
So who were your favorite pro wrestlers that you idolized when you were growing up?
Hogan jumps to mind immediately as a young kid, but as I grew up and realized that this is something I really wanted to do going forward, I think it was just a matter of timing. That new generation of Shawn Michaels with the Boyhood Dream, and Bret Hart being the best technical wrestler and a Canadian and becoming an international hero to a lot of kids, that really connected with me, and I followed those guys, till the end. And I still watch their stuff, and a lot of what they've done over the years has influenced a lot of my style and the way I present myself.
So for me, in my style, I loved Randy Orton, and I love Edge and Triple H. I love Randy Orton and Edge because of how they tell the stories with their body and their facials. And I like Triple H because he's slow and he's methodic, and every step that he takes means something. So for you, Jay, who or what wrestlers do you have within you that you bring out in the ring?
Oh, man, it's such a mixture, and I love it because it's so diverse. Man, you bringing up Triple H too brings me back to a time where I was like the biggest Triple H fan at one point. Definitely a lot of that methodical movement in the ring influences me. But I mean, I'm going to just bang them off here. Mankind, Undertaker, Macho Man, Ric Flair, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. There's probably some Randy Orton Edge in there too, man. Like those, just that whole vibe that those guys bring to the ring, and the storytelling that they do, it's just a whole nother level, I think, compared to a lot of guys. So yeah, I've managed to mix like all my favorites growing up into this unique presentation of Jay Walker, and it's a whole lot of fun doing it.
I agree. It's fun to steal, because I tell people in wrestling, the newer people, that all we're doing is recycled old stuff. So for me, when I'm looking for something new to do, I'm looking for something like in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, something that somebody's already forgotten to do. That's something that I look forward to. So yeah, that's good that you have a lot of those old school guys within your repertoire.
Absolutely.
So you went to college, like you said, you went to college because you wanted to write storylines and angles for pro wrestling television. But how did one day between classes you learn about your first pro wrestling school?
So that's the thing. Like the internet was still kind of new, like new-ish, right? Like indie wrestling didn't quite figure out how to use the internet at that time. We're talking 2006. Like there's an underground there, but it's not really mainstream like it is now. So I was going to university, and it wasn't my thing. I was not having fun doing it actually. But it was a late night class, middle of the night. All of a sudden, walking back to the car and I see a flyer on the ground, and it's for a little promotion called PCW, which is in Winnipeg, and they were featuring AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, which TNA was the hottest thing at the time.
Right.
It was just like, I had no idea there was an indie scene in Canada, never mind, like for the most part, never mind Winnipeg. So this was my shot. So I there was a website. I hit up the website. There was a contact page. Emailed the guy right away. Has got an answer back within a day to go check out, set up the ring, see what the training's like, see if it's for me. And they've been my family ever since. I've been with PCW since day one.
It's so funny how I tell people that there's things that happen to us in our life that just like when you really sit back and think about it, like this is supposed to happen. Like you're supposed to be a wrestler because you could have been anywhere. Anybody could have walked before you and picked up that flyer. The wind could have blown the flyer. Somebody could have swept it up and thrown it in the garbage. But you happen to pass by a wrestling fan and you seen it. You know what happened? I'll tell you what happened because I believe in time travel, right? So a younger Jay Walker came across and what happened to time travel and dropped it in front of you and hid in the alley and watched you pick it up.
I like that. I like that.
Good storytelling, right? So
yeah.
What was your mindset when you went to go check out that school? When they said, "Hey Jay, come down and look at the school"?
So it was in the back of a hotel. It was this dingy, dark bar. Ring was pretty much already set up there, so it was just like you know that moment when you're a kid and you go to like a WWE live event, you see the ring and it's like, oh my god, there it is. There's the magic. That's the feeling I got, and I was ready to go guns blazing and start learning. I watched Tough Enough. I figured I knew how to bump and strike and everything already.
Yep.
Went in there with all the confidence in the world, and that quickly got crushed because the trainer put us through some pretty rigorous stretches and workouts just to see how physically capable we were before doing anything like that. And but I knew leaving that night, even though my legs were killing me from doing 100 squats and whatnot, I just knew like that's home right now. Like that's what I've been waiting for my whole childhood to get to this point.
That's really nice of them. They only made you do 100. See, when I went to pro wrestling school, bro, I went down to Team 3D in Florida, and we did 500 push-ups. 500 squats. And let me tell you about legs. I felt like Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump because I didn't have no legs.
Absolutely. No, I totally feel you. I've done 500. It's a challenge, that's for sure.
Yep. Hey, that's pro wrestling school. A lot of people don't understand that's how it is. But I do see how your trainer wanted to weed out some of the good and some of the bad. The people that really wanted to be there and the people that didn't want to be there, I could tell definitely from talking to you. And since you're still here, you're one of the people that wanted to be there. Was there anybody that decided that it wasn't for them?
You know what, that class, there was just 3 of us. It was a really small class. I think I got there just on the tail end where a lot of the guys already did get weeded out. But yeah, no, to get to being an in-ring competitor, you had to go through quite a bit. And those guys, unfortunately, their bodies didn't hold up as long as they wish they would, and they're gone now. But man, there's a lot of good memories still there of grinding through everything to get to where we were.
What do you think the toughest thing for you was in pro wrestling school?
I think just getting the trainer and the other vets around the locker room to believe that this is what I wanted to do. I walked in, 110 pounds, if that's soaking wet. And they just saw this kid. And, I had a lot of confidence and I had a lot of vision. I was even the promoter had a lot of faith in me in that I was pushing to get like a better website out and to put videos out already. Like, again, YouTube was just in its infancy, but I saw all this potential and I kept like pushing these ideas and, coming in and you're new and you're that small and here's all these veterans and you're going to get bucked a lot by some of those guys. But, perseverance wins in the end. I'm still here and looks like I was right?
So if you can go back right now in time to right before you went to pro wrestling school, how would you prepare differently for pro wrestling school?
I would prepare. I grew up in a small town, so there was no push for any sort of proper sports or training for sports. There wasn't a whole lot for me, so I just figured in this small town, this small little bubble where nobody made it outside of town, that I would just manage to grow up and become a 250-pound beast in the ring. And that didn't happen, of course. So I had a lot of catching up to do. And luckily now I'm 220. So, I fit the bill a little bit more as what a pro wrestler looks like.
Right.
But yeah, just that early stuff and the mental training and discipline and a lot of things like that I wish I had known before coming to the ring.
I agree, because I didn't really have much of a high school background of sports to play either, because I had to come in there and learn how to be coached. It's, because not everybody is coachable, and that's why many people flunk out of pro wrestling school, because somebody tells you, hey, maybe you should do this differently, and then some people are defensive. Like, don't be defensive, be receptive to what somebody's trying to teach you, because obviously you pay them your money, and whether you show up or not, or you come with an attitude or not, you're going to be wasting your money. So I agree. But
absolutely,
what's the single best piece of advice you received while you were in pro wrestling school?
Nothing's jumping out at me at school. As far as something like that's really carried on well. One night, though, just finished work in Honky Tonk Man, and we were in the bar after, and I'm not sure if you're a big country fan, but there was a song by Toby Keith, Red Solo Cup, which was it was all the rage at the time, right? And we were sitting at the table, and everyone's got, like, the bar was just handing out all these Red Solo Cups, right? So everybody could sing along and lift up the cups. And he just turned around and he says, look at this kid. He says, you guys try so hard, but look how easy it is to work the people.
Facts.
That is something that I've taken with me for the rest of my life.
I worked a show once with Honky Tonk Man, and if looks could kill, if killing was illegal, Honky Tonk Man would have killed that guy. I've never seen anybody hit somebody so gingerly with a chair before.
Oh, no.
yeah, bro. Honky Tonk Man was going to kill that guy. And 100%, full disclosure, that person had no business being in the ring to begin with. That person was the ticket seller, and they hit Honky Tonk Man with the chair, and you hear Honky Tonk Man in the back rip this guy up and down in two pieces and stick him in the paper shredder and light him on fire. What I learned that night, if you're going to do it. Okay?
That's right, yeah.
If you're going to do it. So looking at your first match, right? Why was performing in front of people challenging for you?
Man, me as a kid, thank God I had wrestling in my life because, I had friends and things, but I didn't share any of the same interests, any of the same hobbies. I didn't want to go out and do the same things. I was just so narrow-minded and on a one-way track to pro wrestling. That's kind of what I did with my time. So because of that, being just kind of not ostracized, but left out of groups and hangouts and parties and things of that, I just naturally became very introverted and self-conscious. And so to go from that situation, growing up in a small town with all of that, into a ring in the big city, 300 people watching you, you're half naked out there, don't know what the hell you're doing. It can be pretty nerve-wracking. But again, like just that situation of being in a ring, and this is what the home I've been waiting for, I just feel like I connected right away. It's like I kind of just had a sense of what needed to be done, and it really helped boost a lot of my confidence. I'm able to do a lot of talking like I do now, and it's made all the difference in the world.
Do you still have that problem now, performing in front of people? Is it still challenging for you?
I think I put a lot of pressure on myself and my performances because I do take the storytelling so serious. Not necessarily all the time, but the one that does pop into my mind that was more recent was on the biggest show of the year for the first time. I was in the main event challenging for the heavyweight title. Kind of worked my way slowly up the ranks, from, very humble beginnings to where I am now. And it was just, again, just putting a lot of pressure on myself. sold a lot of tickets, which I usually don't do. And so the pressure was on, and it was a big match. And it was against a guy who I love and have the absolute most respect for, but we don't always have the best chemistry. So it's just little things in the back of my mind that I was focused on. But luckily, we were able to overcome it, and very proud of the match that we put on for that night.
So I recently started getting Canadian wrestlers on the Tristen Law Show, because after speaking to Jeremy Prophet, which anybody who's listening now, just check back a few episodes and you'll be able to listen to it. But he brought to light to me that the tables are not equal for Canadian independent wrestlers like it is for us American independent wrestlers when it comes to opportunities with WWE, AEW, and other big name promotions. What are your feelings on my findings?
It's 100% accurate. I mean, you'll see WWE come around once a year. There's not a lot of tryout opportunities like there are in the States at the Performance Center and such. I believe they finally did one in Canada. I believe last year. No, it would have been 2 years ago because of COVID, I believe. But yeah, again, I mentioned earlier about being geographically challenged as well. Getting across the border as a performer from the Canadian side is a lot tougher than the American side. There's just, for some reason, I don't know if it's the border patrol or whatnot, that they just don't want Canadians coming in and taking away American dollars, if it's a political thing or whatnot. But it is very hard to get that crossover. And obviously there's some great examples of guys who have gone on to have amazing careers in WWE from our side of the border. But overall, when you put into retrospective how many indie wrestlers along the last 30 years that haven't made it, it can be pretty deflating. But I also think that a big issue is that the Canadian talent haven't thought forward enough in how to create more brand awareness for themselves. And this is something that I'm tapping into now, is the social media. You know, every indie promotion in the States, and I don't mean every, but I mean there's a significant amount now that are starting to stream on some major apps, some major networks, getting some local TV deals, doing a lot of YouTube channel stuff, and really blowing up their presence and creating these indie stars that get to travel the entire country. We don't have any of that going on in Canada, and something I would love to see, which might help. If it doesn't help us cross the border, it at least helps elevate the presence of Canadian wrestling as a whole, is if, you know, some guys would get together and start trying to put their foot forward a little bit on brand and presentation to really get the word out about what's going on here. Because there's a lot of great wrestling and an insane amount of great Canadian pro wrestlers.
I can 100% tell you this about the American border. They don't even want us Americans back across the border when we come from Canada, because I just feel like for me to go into your country, and like I tell you, I go to your country a lot when COVID wasn't a thing, going over that Rainbow Bridge and going to Hamilton, I'm pretty much hanging out in Ontario. That's where I hang out. And when you come back, when you go across the border, they go, hey, well, what brings you to Canada? You know, I say, I am here to visit family. The one issue that I had one time is a guy asked me, where are you going in Canada? And I said, Ontario. He goes, Ontario's big. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to Hamilton. He goes, where are you from? I go, New York. He was okay with that. So New York is a state and Ontario is a province. They're the same thing, but they're different. But he didn't have any issues with it. But coming back from the other side, from Canada to the United States, I stop at the border and the guy asks, why were you there? I said, I was there to visit my sister. And he goes, what gifts did you bring back? I said, I didn't bring back anything. He goes, well, what do you have in the car? So I'm looking around like, I don't know. What do I have? Do you know something I don't know? So I look at him with 100% conviction, Jay, and I say, clothes? I don't mean clothes. Dude, I don't know what you mean. I don't have anything in the car. He told me to pull over, and they had to search the car and everything like that. But the point of the story is they give everybody a hard time when it comes to the border. So I'm not 100% sure if it's something that's political. From doing some digging, I've heard that it needs to be something with the laws. I heard that it was easier, and I'm not 100% sure how it is because I haven't fact-checked it, but I heard that it's easier for Americans to go over to Canada and wrestle because Vince McMahon lobbied because he didn't want to have to get work visas for everybody in the WWE. I was 100% sure how true that is. Have you heard anything like that?
I would totally believe that. that sounds like a good possibility, and just something that's kind of been grandfathered over the years because there is so much talent going over. I want to bring up a fun border story because something similar to you, me and a buddy pro wrestler, we're going down to Chicago for the All Out pay-per-view.
Okay.
And we brought our gear just in case because we're going to an indie show and we're, hoping to maybe get a spot on. So we had everything packed. We hid it under everything that we could. And we traveled over the border, and sure enough, the guy, started asking questions, thought it was kind of fishy. Two guys, middle of the night trying to cross the border just to go to Chicago from where we were. And so he asked us to pull over, and he searched the car, and we were having a heart attack that we were going to get turned around. He searched for quite a bit. I don't know if he thought they were closed, the rest of the gear or whatnot, but luckily we got through. But coming back, again, stopped. What are you doing? Where'd you come from? Where are you from? What did you bring across? What kind of gifts did you get? And we told him we went to the AEW show in Chicago, and Border, who was a Canadian girl, was just like, "Oh my God, I was just watching that the other night. That's amazing." She was asking us how the show was going, like totally night and day experiences, right? I don't know why it is that way, but it is, and it's unfortunate.
So what do you feel needs to happen 100% to make the playing field even? That's
tough. There's so many different elements, but I think that there needs to be the boys need to look after themselves a lot better in the brand presentation, like I was talking earlier. They need to make more of an effort in that way instead of I think it's a little bit cliche, and we want to be like our favorites that we've read in the books and heard the documentaries of making the towns and doing 5 shows in 4 days and things like that. And I think we're kind of beating a dead horse at this point, some of us. I think that we need to start getting our name out there with more of a global audience rather than just focusing on all these small towns we can hit up, and do better for local business, do better for the entire country's business, just to get all eyes on Canadian wrestling as a product and really drive demand to want to see more of it. Because when the demand is there, then we'll start seeing the requests from promotions that want to bring us over and really try to highlight us. That's what I think needs to be done. Like WrestleMania weekend, you put on a Canadian themed wrestling show. I don't know if you call it Stampede this or, whatever you call it, but I think there would be a high demand if there were enough recognizable Canadian talents that the American audience knows. I think that would be the biggest help.
Well, I definitely hope from me inviting you and previous Canadian pro wrestlers on the show, and hopefully future Canadian pro wrestlers on the show, people get to know who you guys are and get to understand your work and see your work. Because let me tell you, just like everybody else, I live in my bubble, right? If you want to talk about indie wrestling, I know that, I'm a New Yorker, but I wrestle in Jersey, but Jersey is only an hour away for me to go to a show, right? Or I'll wrestle in Connecticut. Connecticut's only down the road. Pennsylvania's only down the road. So it's, that's usually my bubble that I'm in. And I don't ever get to see anything outside that bubble. I don't get to see Californian wrestlers because, I don't ever get to wrestle any. But I started watching some stuff in Texas because I want to go down there. So what are some promotions that you would recommend people start watching, Americans that are pro wrestling fans, so that they can get into Canadian pro wrestling?
Man, there's so many good ones around that Ontario area that you're close to. I really recommend Super Kicked. I believe they even have a YouTube show that you can check out regularly. Man, putting me on the spot here. Alpha One is another great one around there. There's an ECCW in British Columbia. Aubrey Edwards from AEW kind of got her start there. A lot of great talent in that area. In Winnipeg, PCW. Premier Championship Wrestling. It's where Kenny Omega got his start. Not to put myself over, but if you want to see what's going on, the best way to do that is to go through my YouTube page. I usually have a lot of videos and kind of commenting with the guys to put them over. Quebec's got a thriving Canadian indie scene as well. You know, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn got their starts there. I'm not familiar because of the French language that is prominent there.
Right.
I am trying to do my homework and figure it out. Newfoundland and that whole Maritimes island on the East Coast, they've got something interesting going on. They've always drawn these huge shows, and they do these little tours and little runs and stuff that are a lot of fun, and they bring in some big names. I'm trying to think of the promotion name off the top of my head. It's NEW, but I can't remember quite what it stands for. But man, like there's places to go. There's boys ready to work, and there's some amazing talent out there. This is a shame that nobody hears about them.
The thing I always say, Jay, is that I never know who's listening to this show. So you never know. Maybe somebody from WWE that stumbles upon this and they start going, "Oh, cool. Jay Walker, oh, that's cool. Let me check out these feds." And they may see somebody and say, "Hey, you know, let's go ahead and bring one of these guys over." Or maybe when they come to Canada, you know, hopefully they'll give you guys a look. Or maybe they could start a Canadian Performance Center. Because one of the things that was brought to my attention is that the WWE Performance Center is closer to some parts of Canada than it is England. But England has their own NXT. You know,
That's right.
The Performance Center is closer to some parts of Canada than it is California, because they have Californian or West Coast United States wrestlers there. So why can't you guys get your fair shake as well too?
Absolutely.
So Jay, aside from yourself, who are 3 Canadian pro wrestlers who should be signed to a major American pro wrestling organization? Because obviously you're going to put anybody that's worth their weight in gold would put their name in there. So that's why I say take your name out. You're in there. But who are the other 3?
I appreciate that. I have to give a shout out to Michael Allen Richard Clark out of Saskatchewan. The dude is built. The dude's got all the charisma in the world. He's got a great look. He's had some amazing matches with the likes of Cody Rhodes and such. He had a WWE tryout, and really hope it works out for him. Another guy who has been trying to make waves, he's done well. He's managed to cross over to the border as well, is Ravenous Randy Myers. There's quite a few years ago, Mick Foley was putting him over that somebody needs to sign this guy. So, I mean, I think there's got to be some eyes on him. And a new guy I just got tuned into out of the Ontario scene. Seems like a really good stand-up dude. Again, looks like $1 million, and I think he's going to make some big waves too. Is the Golden Gun, Mark Wheeler. Got to give him a shout out.
Those are some names that I've heard of doing my research. One of the things that I've learned from doing my research as well, because I did a lot of research on this whole Canadian independent wrestling scene, is that it's different. Just like Mexico wrestling is different, Mexican wrestling is different. Just like how they wrestle in New England, it's a lot different than they wrestle in the West Coast. So for you, in your experience, how is Canadian indie wrestling different from American indie wrestling?
I think I think this translates because of Stampede Wrestling back in the day and who Stu Hart would bring in. I think it's the perfect hybrid of American style showmanship wrestling and the strong style of Japanese wrestling. I think those two have managed to blend together in this perfect style that is Canadian wrestling that really translates well, and is the reason why you see so many Canadian wrestlers that have made it are considered the workhorses with all the charisma.
So for my listeners that don't know, because the best part about the Tristen Law Show is you don't have to be a pro wrestling fan to enjoy the podcast, explain to somebody listening what strong style wrestling is.
Oh, so it's, if you've ever watched any form of wrestling, even if it's from a TV show or movie, you can tell that there is so much more drama and showmanship and crowd interaction. The strong style, I would say, is a much more sports-centric focus on the entertainment aspect. It's a lot more hard-hitting, a lot more striking. There's more storytelling with the moves rather than looking at the audience and kind of begging for a reaction. You know, very much more a sports-centric focus.
I thought that was a really good definition.
Thanks.
If AEW, WWE, or another top name pro wrestling organization is listening, why is Jay Walker the best person to be given a contract?
I think that and I haven't figured it out yet, but for some reason, when I get out there, whether I'm the bad guy or the good guy, I just have this weird way of connecting with the audience, whether they're wrestling fans or not. Every single time I step into a new town, I always have people coming up to me after the show saying, you know what, like those guys are all good, but you there's something different about you, or like there's something memorable about you. And when I do come back to those towns, I'm one of the most recognizable faces. They just happen to remember me. I don't know if it's the storytelling. I don't know if it's the way I interact with the audience during the match. I don't know what that is, but there is this intangible little it factor about me that's going to make people remember me for the next time you bring me over.
Aside from pro wrestling, Jay, what else do you have to offer the world?
A lot of positivity. I think that's what everyone would say about me. Just growing up in that small bubble, small town, not really having the resources to boost myself up, I had to find my own way to do that. And just through a lot of research and just realizing what really matters most in life, I feel like I've learned a lot and really grown as a person. And I think that everyone deserves the equal opportunities that I've had to chase my ambitions and goals and dreams. And so many people don't have the resources to do that. So I like to just sort of spread, messages of positivity that have affected me and shook me to my core to change my perspectives. Just give them, the layout of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how I did it, to hopefully get people up to build their own platforms to get to the things that they want to get to. It's not easy. And when you're surrounded by a lot of people that are negative influences in your life, or that kind of unknowingly hold you back, I think it's important to have people in your corner cheering you on, or kind of laying out a blueprint for you to navigate in life. And that's been one of the biggest things over the last couple of years with this YouTube show, is that people are reaching out and asking for advice, or just, patting me on the back for giving them a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
So if pro wrestling is no longer an option for you, what is it that you would do with your life career-wise?
Something involved in pro wrestling. If I can't physically do the wrestling, I love the writing aspect very much. I love creating characters. I love coaching and teaching and giving advice. I love managing. I've done refereeing. I've done all that stuff. And anything involved in this little world is just my primary focus. This is just where I'm happy. Like I said at the top of the thing, right? This is my home, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon, no matter what.
Fair enough. So my mother always says, Jay, to speak it into existence. So I'm going to speak it into existence for you. You're going to be the top pro wrestler in the world, signed with somebody, headlining somebody's marquee pay-per-view. You're going to be a millionaire. So because you're going to be a millionaire, what is it that you would do with $1 million if you had the opportunity? a million Canadian, because it's more American, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think that's how it works.
Get the exchange rate in there.
Yep.
Man, I'm not, it's weird. Like, I'm the worst guy at Christmas or my birthday because I don't want anything. I'm not a materialistic guy. I would make sure that my wife is happy, that my kids are happy, and that, I don't know. I would take them to Disney World for sure. That's a priority. But I would just continue to reinvest in myself and my family and try to do bigger and better things beyond the pro wrestling paycheck, just to try to make sure that we're good, we're taken care of.
That's smart. I think that's a really good question I'd like to ask, Jay, because, like, again, you never know who's listening. Somebody might want to give you $1 million. If somebody said, hey, what would you do with $1 million? Oh, I'm going to go buy cars. I'm going to go buy trucks. I'm going to go buy houses. I'm like, well, maybe he's not a good person to give $1 million.
I see all these pro wrestlers that have made it that are starting to collect sneakers and video games and action figures. And I'm like, man, what the hell are you guys doing?
Of course, bro. Let me tell you, Nunzio was one of the people that took me underneath his wing when I moved back to New York. And one of the things that he always told me is, save your money, kid. That's what he always told me. Save your money. So like for me, yeah, if I ever get the opportunity to make $1 million, if as a podcaster or a pro wrestler, sure, I'd like to live next door between, you know, Ric Flair and Conrad Thompson. I'd love to do that, right? But you know, I gotta think the long game. Maybe I'd get a nice little house that fits me, that's paid off, and I never have to worry about nothing else again. And maybe drive like an Acura or something like that. Mercedes, BMW, I don't know.
And that's cool too. Like, do you, right?
Sure is, right? Who is Jay Walker?
The most stubborn, optimistic guy you will ever meet, that I just won't take no for an answer. I love pro wrestling. Like when you hear guys live, sleep, eat, and breathe this thing, that's me in a nutshell. 24/7. That's the goal. That's the dream. I'm living it. I'm loving it, and I want to keep doing it forever. I think that's the best words I could put into it. That's a good question.
So doing the Tristen Law Show and podcasting, even your YouTube channel, it's going to outlive us. It has to outlive us. So if your descendants, whether they be your kids or your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, ever stumble upon this episode of the Tristen Law Show, what is it that you want them to know about you?
I just never sweated the small stuff. I never worried about the small things. I always had the big picture in mind, and I never let anyone's opinions or judgment or their actions change the way I thought about myself or change the way I did things. I had my core fundamental beliefs of what I thought was right, what I thought would work, and what I thought was going to pay off. And no matter what, there was no excuses. I had no time. I made the time to make my own opportunities despite no one else believing in me. And I went for it, and it's paid off. Whether I'm a millionaire or whatever subscriber count I get, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And that's all that matters.
That's good. Happiness is everything, my friend. What is next for Jay Walker?
Hopefully that $1 million contract. No, man, like I need to get out there. I need to get out of this bubble that I've been wrestling in. I need to get my name more out there. I need to do it more often. I just need more pro wrestling in my veins right now. I'm chomping at the bit. I'm building a brand. People are begging to see me out in multiple places, and I want to be able to go and meet all these people who are supporting me, who have never met me face to face before, and pay some of that back to them.
I think building your brand is one of the most important things that we as independent wrestlers could do. And I understood how to market myself, but one of the things I just recently learned was how to better build my brand on Instagram. And that's something that I'm doing now at The Real Big Tris. And, you know, I hope to be like you, where people can be calling me and say, hey, look, we love your wrestling. We can't wait till you come to Canada and wrestle, because I love your country, because the food is great, but the weather is not always so great. So anytime during the summertime and there's not snow on the ground, I will be there. But yes, building your brand is definitely an important trait that you need in pro wrestling or in any kind of business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Jay, it was a pleasure to have you here today on the Tristen Law Show, so that we can get down to what the problem is in Canada and to learn a little bit about you. To learn more about you, tell everybody where they can find you outside of the Tristen Law Show.
Super easy to find me, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. It's all the same handle at I am Jay Walker. That's I-A-M Jay Walker. I'm currently pushing to try to get 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube page for the vlog. Please go do that. Give me a shout out. I'm sending out a free t-shirt to somebody that helps me get to that goal. But I just hope that you guys enjoyed this and are able to find me and connect with me.
There you go. He said free t-shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like free, go ahead and get it, because I am Jay Walker on social media is looking for you. Jay, I'm going to follow you on Instagram. I don't believe that I follow you. I'm going to make that happen.
I feel like I found a new friend here at the business. Let's do it.
I've made a lot of friends in Canada. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging around. When I get back, I'm going to tell you what's going to be happening next time on the Tristen Law Show, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on this interview. Don't go anywhere because I'll be right back. Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. That shirt you're wearing is so not cool. Why don't you head on over to TristenLawShow.com and get yourself a new shirt? Not only will you be cool, but you'll also be supporting the show. What are you waiting for? Go now and get a hat too while you're at it. Thank me later. We're the show at TristenLawShow.com. Welcome back to the Tristen Law Show, and I hope that you're having a great time. We're looking to promote your band or brand here in the Tristen Law Show. Hey, contact the Tristen Law Show at TristenLawShow.com or TristenLawShow@gmail.com for more info. Let me tell you about Jay Walker, all right? Jay Walker, that's my guy. That's my dude. Never met the guy, but he's my dude. He's been posting a lot about pizza as of late on Twitter, and I like pizza, but I just don't like the burnt up one that he posted the other day. It was gross. Jay, if you're looking for great pizza, come to New York. Brother, the first slice is on me. This place that I know, they sell tortellini pizzas. Yep, the pasta, and then they put a white sauce on it. You know what? Let me not explain to you. I'll just order it, and I'll just take a picture and entice you to come to America once the border opens, of course. Next episode, I'm going to introduce you to Spencer Love. Sounds like a wrestler, but he's not a wrestler. He's a podcaster and content creator like myself, and he also represents Canada. We're going to tackle the U.S. and Canadian border issues which make it difficult for Canadian pro wrestlers to come abroad here to the United States, and we're going to talk about some wrestlers that you should know about, and we're going to get deep down into the personality behind the personality of Spencer Love. If you like this episode, I need a favor from you. Yes, I'm talking to you. Share this on your favorite social media platform, and don't forget to tag myself in the show. Don't make this be the thing that you do. Make this be the thing that we do. You can also walk up to a random stranger and tell them to listen to the Tristen Law Show. Yeah, you're right. They may think you're crazy, but who cares what other people think, right? Fine. If you're worried about being judged, go on over to TristenLawShow.com and at least buy a shirt. People will know that you're really, really cool. Rate the Tristen Law Show 5 stars on Apple Podcast and leave a review, please. Reviews mean a lot. Whichever podcast platform you're using to listen, please follow or subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. And the best part is that it's free. Learn about myself and the Tristen Law Show by typing TristenLawShow.com in your internet-enabled device for more info. I'll be waiting for you next week. I'm Tristen Law, and you've been listening to the Tristen Law Show. Until next time, adios.